Occupational safety and administration protocol makes up 20% of your ICE exam. And it's the domain that students skip because it feels like paperwork. Well, it's not. What's up, DA gang, gang, gang? It's your girl, Leela. Who else? And welcome back to
The DA Study Spot, yeah.
In today's study session, we are covering the regulatory agencies that govern your dental office, the OSHA Bloodborne Pathogen Standard, and the Hazard Communication Standard, combining Chapter 22 and 23 of the MDA 15th edition textbook because together they build a full regulatory picture of what the ICE exam tests. Let's jump right in, but before we do so, be sure to hit that like, subscribe, and notification bell so you are alerted every time I upload new study sessions. Run it!
Regulatory agencies have legal authority. They can issue fines, and failure to comply can result in serious consequences, including imprisonment or license suspension. OSHA, the FDA, and the EPA are all regulatory. Non-regulatory agencies, sometimes called advisory, issue guidance and recommendations based on scientific evidence, but they have no authority to enforce or revoke licenses. The CDC and NIOSH fall here.
Here's a quick agency rundown because the exam loves matching agencies to their rules.
First, we have the CDC, which conducts and supports health promotion, prevention, and preparedness. Then you have OSHA, which is a regulatory agency whose mission is to ensure the safety and health of America's workers by setting and enforcing standards. The FDA regulates food, drugs, medical devices, and radiation emitting products. EPA protects and restores the environment and public health through environmental laws. NIOSH is non regulatory and it provides national leadership to prevent work related illness and injury, which is also part of the CDC. Then NIH and NIDCR are mostly research focused, not enforcement focused.
This is one of the most heavily tested pieces of Domain 4.
So, every dental office must have a written exposure control plan that's reviewed and updated at least annually. It has to clearly describe how the office complies with the BBP standard. Employees are sorted into occupational exposure categories. So, Category 1 employees are routinely exposed to blood, saliva, or both. Category 2 may on occasion be exposed, and Category 3 are never exposed. The employer must offer the hepatitis B vaccine to all Category 1 and Category 2 employees at no charge within 10 days of their job assignment. If an employee declines, that has to be documented with a signed declination form, and they retain the right to request the vaccine later at no charge.
Now, the full sequence, medical evaluation requirements, and documentation timeline is covered start to finish in the iSuccess bundle, along with follow-up measures and post-exposure protocol step by step. That is linked in the description box. OSHA also requires every office to have a written hazard communication program, a plan that identifies hazardous chemicals in the office and how the staff will be informed about them.
The Globally Harmonized System, or GHS, standardizes how chemicals are classified and labeled, meaning a hazard label means the same thing whether you're in the US or anywhere else. The GHS is adopted. Every hazardous chemical requires a safety data sheet, or SDS. It's a comprehensive resource containing health and safety information about that chemical, organized into standardized sections covering things like hazard identification, handling, storage, and emergency measures. Note that employee training on hazard communication is required within the first days of employment, then at least annually, and anytime a new chemical hazard is introduced to the office.
A chemical is considered hazardous if it poses a physical hazard, meaning it can ignite, explode, or react dangerously, or a health hazard, meaning it can cause harm to the body.
There are two types of chemical exposure to know: acute exposure, which is high levels of exposure over a short period, and chronic exposure, which is continuous or repeated exposure over a long period, sometimes producing symptoms that don't show up until much later. Now, chemicals can enter the body three ways: inhalation, ingestion, and skin contact absorption. That's why eye protection gloves and proper ventilation aren't optional extras, they're part of the same regulatory framework.
Not all waste in a dental office is treated the same, and the exam expects you to know the categories.
First category is general waste, which requires no special handling. These are paper towels, mixing pads, and empty non-hazardous containers. Then you have your hazardous waste, which has to meet at least one of four characteristics. So it has to be ignitable, corrosive, reactive, or toxic. The last category is regulated medical waste, which is also called infectious or biohazard waste, and that includes contaminated waste, sharps, pathologic waste, blood or blood soaked materials. Sharps, as you may or may not already know, specifically require puncture resistant, leak proof, or color coded containers labeled with the biohazard symbol. A few specific items worth knowing: mercury and amalgam waste must be recycled as hazardous waste and never poured down the drain. And extracted teeth containing amalgam are treated as regulated medical waste unless the amalgam has been removed first.
Since that level of specificity is exactly where this domain gets tricky, I am keeping the full waste classification chart matching every specific item to its category in the iSuccess bundle, and again, linked in the description box. And that's chapters 22 and 23, regulatory versus non-regulatory agencies, the OSHA Bloodborne Pathogen Standard, the Hazard Communication Standard, and waste classification. This is Occupational Safety and Administration Protocol, 20% of your ICE exam, and is far more testable than most students expect. The Post-Exposure Protocol sequence, the SDS section breakdown, and the item-by-item waste classification chart are all linked in the iSuccess bundle in the description box. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit that thumbs up button, then subscribe and share with a DA bestie, and I will see you both at the next study session. Bye!
The DA Study Spot, yeah.